Hi, everybody. It's Dr. Cindy with the Positively Altered podcast. So for those of you that are watching and not listening, I'm going to tell you that I look amazing for 72. And I talk about that in a little bit with our guests, Marcus Riley and Stuart Kaplan, who are going to be on the podcast. And this is an important one for you to hang tight with because we are going to talk about aging. And here's the deal. You're going to get older. You don't have a choice. It's going to happen. Nobody can slow down that clock of the next moment, the next day, the next birthday. But I really want you to embrace this. And there is a way to move through our aging process that my two guests are going to talk about on this week's episode. So hang tight through our couple commercial breaks, and we are going to be right back to talk about how we age well.
Hello, my name is Heather Lord, and I am the COO of Professional Health Products. Cutting corners is an all too common practice in the dietary supplement industry. When my father founded Professional Health Products, he sourced the cleanest, most biologically active ingredients from around the globe. Today, that commitment remains, which is why the finest healthcare practitioners, like Dr. Cindy, have trusted us for more than 40 years. We oversee the entire process in our manufacturing facility, from sourcing and formulation to manufacturing and labeling. Today, we offer over 300 unique products that can be tailored to the nutritional and homeopathic needs of each individual. Most recently, we launched a proprietary genetic test, allowing our practitioners to get even more dialed in to their patients' health. To learn more about Professional Health Products, please talk to your practitioner or visit our website at phpltd.com.
Today, your life is going to be altered. I'm Dr. Cindy.
Welcome to Infinity. We have worked hard to create an electronic claims website that is simple and user-friendly. This is the public side. You can log into your personal web portal here. This is your dashboard. You can personalize it to your liking here. Our main focus has been to allow you to submit and edit claims as easy as possible. You will find our claims editor and claims processing is simple to use and straightforward. Our quick action bar is where you can find your most important information. Most of these icons will take you directly to the claims the number represents. You can easily view if you have any messages in your inbox of any unread alerts by looking for these blue numbers. To view the rest of our training videos to get the most of your Infinity experience, click this icon. We hope you find this web portal simple and easy to use. Thanks for letting us serve you.
I'm Dr. Cindy. Who wouldn't want to join me for the Positively Altered podcast? Thank you so much for listening to our commercial sponsors. They are super important to us here. And we are back at the Positively Altered podcast with my guests all the way from Australia, Marcus Riley, and from New York, Stuart Kaplan. Welcome to the podcast, gentlemen.
Great to be with you, Cindy. Thank you.
Indeed. Thank you.
This is so exciting for two reasons. One, we're going to talk about a subject that is super important. And two, and Stuart, forgive me, but Marcus, you have an amazing accent. So I think if nothing else, people are just going to enjoy listening to your answers because of that. Is that okay?
That's okay. Although we feel quite weird about our accent when we're talking to the wonderful American folks. So we don't share that love for our accent, but it's not kind of you to say. So thank you, Cindy.
Oh my gosh, I think it's awesome. And Stuart, heralding from New York, I'm a Chicago girl born and raised, but I get mistaken for a New Yorker all the time just because of my speed and my pace and sometimes my attitude. So, I guess the accents don't always define us completely and sometimes label us, but we're going to go with it today anyway. All right. I want to dive into this topic and I want to start out by asking you both something really important to me because there's a term that actually bothers me tremendously in my space of helping people get and stay well. And it's this term of anti-aging. Everybody is looking for that next anti-aging magic pill. And I'm not sure why we're so focused on anti-aging rather than maybe better aging. So how do you both feel about that term and do you even use it?
I'll start off there, Cindy. It is certainly the opposite of what we are suggesting. The way we should view aging. We see aging not as something to be fixed or to hold off, but something to embrace and to think about in stages, as opposed to a chronological progression year after year. The anti-aging suggests that perhaps when you're about to turn 30 from 29 or 70 from 69, that somehow we can hold that off with either medications or some sort of ointment. And that is, we think of aging much more in with several different factors, but one of them being the psychological factor, where you should be embracing the stage of aging you are in, consider where you are and where you would want to be as well.
Oh my gosh, I just love that. And Marcus, how do you feel about that? And how did you really get involved in this whole, did you choose aging as a topic you really wanted to pursue? Or, is there a great story that you just sort of fell into it?
Yeah, I think coming to your first question, Cindy, that anti-aging sentiment comes from this the stereotypical view we have of aging, which is underpinned by our fixation on the chronological age. And we have this cultural norm in terms of our view of aging, which is just a journey of decline, where in fact that's not the case. And evidence and people we all know demonstrate that you can improve as you get older, whether it's in terms of your cognitive function or your physical performance. So we need to really throw out that stereotypical view of aging. We don't need to be anti-aging. We need to embrace aging. In terms of my involvement, I became involved in this space when I was 17, to be honest, and I started working in a retirement community, and that was my first exposure to the whole field of aging. And it's amazing what you can learn from people and the relationships you form and the insights you gain. And it wasn't until some years later when I was reflecting back on my working life at that point and realizing how much I had learned from other people. And I think also understanding that I had seen people who aged really positively and there were reasons for why they did. And conversely, there were people I knew who perhaps didn't age as successfully, and there were reasons for that too. So that was a driver for, I think, the work Stuart and I have done together, is that there are reasons why people age really positively, and let's share those insights and hopefully inform and inspire more people to grab hold of this opportunity that we have through our increased longevity.
No, it's so great. So you two came together and you formed this booming, I love that, booming aging agency. How did that come to pass? And what is the mission of the organization?
Well, Stuart and I were on a board of an organization called the Global Aging Network, which, as the name suggests, was leaders from all around the world who were looking at how we can better foster better, more successful aging across all parts of the world. And it was really about sharing insights and innovations and also recognizing that in all parts of the world, there's a lot of commonalities in terms of our aging populations and our increased longevity. And we shared a lot of challenges, of course, but also opportunities in terms of how we can be seeing aging as the opportunity, the gift that it is, as opposed to a problem to fix. And it comes back to your initial anti-aging comment that it's seen as a problem, it's seen as a negative, whereas really our increased longevity is arguably one of the world's greatest triumphs, the fact that we are living longer. So let's grab hold of that opportunity and see it as a positive. And so on the back of our shared involvement with that organisation, Stuart and I looked at, well, how can we come together and, as I said just before, share the inspiration, share the insights. And on the back of that, then we obviously did a lot of work around, well, what does it mean in terms of our the realities of our increased longevity? And that's when we started to look at redefining the stages of aging. And if you think about the way stages of life have been commonly defined in the past, the focus has always been on the earlier stages of life, all the different stages through childhood and teenage years. And then it was kind of adult retire, death was really the way we define those stages. And that's not the reality in obviously in the modern world. So we looked at how we can better define the stages of our aging journey from young adult life all the way through to 100 years plus, and really recognizing the fact that those stages are not defined by a chronological age. In fact, they're defined by different stages of life that we move through, and identifying the fact that we can be influencing and to a degree controlling those stages and when we get to those stages and the duration for which we're in them.
I love this. In my practice with my patients, they all have their goals when they walk into my office, but I always tell them that my goal is that you make it to over 100, feeling amazing, and one day you just go to sleep and don't wake up. And if you can get past the 100 into 100, my goal is 112. But, so anything over 100 is a bonus in my world. I'll let you pick what number that needs to be, but that's always my goal. And I wonder, in your opinions, how much of this stressful space that a lot of us sit in as the chronological number does get older is really based out of fear because there is death at the end. Do you think that's a driver for a lot of people, knowing that we're getting closer to an end? And that's scary.
I think the unknown is always scary. And so death would fit into that category. The issue is that as we go from stage to stage, to not be focused on what might be, but take some control in terms of what we have as choices, our passions, our directions, instead of looking to an unknown. There are things that we can control, such as where do we live, whether or not we continue to work, whether or not we want to be volunteers at some point or mentors at some point, whether or not we have a goal of traveling off to some far off country, climbing a mountain. Those things are ideas that we often have. Everybody has those ideas in their head. The question is, how do we act on them? And if we act on them, we are exercising control and choice. And by doing them, we're reinforcing our own abilities and feeling good about how we are living. So the question of how do you live life as set off from, at some point I may die. It's just simply something that we don't deal with from the book's perspective, because we're focused on positivity. We're focused on how we can move through various stages, not only in a linear fashion, but at some stage, for instance, you may encounter a health condition, and that could be at age 50 or at age 80. But when something or some other life circumstance, a divorce or a death of a close loved one, and when that happens, that does not push us further along on the chronological continuum. While it may, for the moment, we could take hold of that, and again, based on our passions and our choices and the environment that we're in, we can move ourselves back to an earlier stage. We refer to that as the flicker stage.
Okay.
And the flicker stage, we could have fun with. And so aging does not have to be something that takes us down a dark and more narrow road as it progresses. Based on our choices, we can move back into an earlier stage. And again, think about whether or not I want to start a business. I want to do that travel that I have thought about. I want to meet up with that person who I knew 25 years ago, and I'm sure he or she is still around, and I want to reconnect. And that will psychologically bring us back to an earlier stage by flickering in your life.
Okay. I love that. And it reminds me of a story when I was in chiropractic school, and it was my second career. So I was a little bit older than the average student. There were two women in the program that were 55 years old. And I remember like it was yesterday, there were other students that were younger that actually made fun of these women for being in school at 55 years old. And I remember one of them replying to a comment saying, why would I stay in a career when I have another good 30 years to be in it and be miserable instead of spending 4 years to learn something new that I'm excited about at this age, and then have, right, those decades in front of me that I can really enjoy. And I'll never forget that conversation that I overheard, I wasn't a part of, because I find there's so many people that, I'm older, so I'm stuck, right? It's too late. I can't redo. I can't learn something new. I have to just keep moving forward. And I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, this is where you're talking about that flicker phase, right? We're now in that space of, do we become like those 55-year-old women that see the upside and are willing to do something about it, right? To better whatever it is they're looking to better. Or do we sit in that victim mentality of we're really stuck and be miserable? And I wonder, so if that's our flicker phase, how do we encourage people to move from the stuck to the choice of making movement?
Cindy, we deliberately wanted to make the book really practical. And so to that question, there's some really effective tools which start with your own self-assessment. And to your point you just made, understanding where you are and also where you have been and what's informed and formed you to get to where you are. And then really importantly, looking forward in terms of, well, what do I want to be doing? What is important to me? What are my passions? What are my priorities? And importantly, what are my goals? And you really made a great point in terms of recognizing that potential that we have. And we do have time, and we do have the opportunity to seize that time, to shape it the way we want to. And we talk about this concept of aging on pace, which is essentially how you want to live. What's the lifestyle you want to be pursuing, the tempo to your life that you want. For some people, it's working for as long as they can. For others, it might be ongoing education and learning. For others, it might be the role they play with their communities or with their families, whatever it might be for you. And I think that's a really important part of the aging on pace concept is it's a self-determined journey. So it's really tapping into what's important to you, what's going to energize you, and also what's going to drive your engagement, what's going to drive your sense of purpose. So it comes back to really that deeper knowledge of self and the things that really, get your engines turning in terms of motivation, in terms of interest, and identifying then the opportunities that align to those passions and priorities. And I think we underestimate, or as a society, we underestimate the potential we have, the ability we have, the capacity we have through different stages of life to be able to pursue those opportunities, to really pursue that potential. And we often talk about happiness, and sometimes people don't want to talk about that because it's too much of a touchy-feely sort of subject. But my favorite definition of happiness that I heard was the happiness is the joy one feels in the pursuit of their own potential. And I think that's what we're talking about in terms of prioritizing what's important to you, chasing that goal or working towards that objective that you have, which is really personal to you. And that's going to be energizing, that lifting, no matter what age or stage we might be at.
I love that. And, I think it's really important that we recognize that potential and those desires have to be individual, right? We live in a society of the imposter syndrome, and we're always comparing, and somebody has more money or more advancement in their profession or was able to retire earlier, right? And does that really matter? And how much do you feel that getting stuck in the comparison model then inhibits our ability to, age on pace, as you say?
I think the comparison model. So let's set what we compare to that we have learned from as early as when we were young children, and that is retirement and the age 65. So that sort of is the marker that we measure things against. You in your comment, you just said there's some people even retire earlier. And so retirement was set back in 1935 when we created the Social Security Administration and the Social Security Act. And that had to do with actuaries who figured out how long people were living at the time, which was up to about age 63 was the lifespan. And so they determined that if you're at age 63, if you retired at 65, you have another 2 or 3 years. So again, this marker was established 90 years ago at this point, and we have not really updated it. So people still use 65 as a milestone, a marker. Some are rushing toward it. I can't wait until I get to it. Others are saying, doesn't apply to me. And they blow right past 65 into their 70s or 80s and continue working forever. And then there are those who may say, I've made my success. I'm retiring at 50 and starting a new career. When we retire, what do we retire from? We retire from a job. We don't retire from life. Mm-hmm. And so to your earlier point, when somebody is reaching age 60 or 65, with longevity today going out to 80 plus, there are still a solid 20, 25 years. You have that many years that you still should be thinking about, as opposed to, I am now retired. I need to sit down. I must be exhausted all these years that I've been running, and I'm going to sit down and rest. No, so many of us today are moving right through that artificial age 65, again, reset decades ago and not being updated, as we have updated many other aspects of life with longevity, but we have not updated that marker that we measure ourselves against.
I love that. And I think when you tell the story, I think if we were only going to live to 63 and we have to retire at 65, we have to work for 2 years while we're deceased, which doesn't sound reasonable to me. When I'm gone, I want to be done. But it is fascinating. So I'm 57 and I don't plan on ever retiring because I love what I do and I love my life's work. And I hope that, again, one day I go to sleep at night knowing I've got to be somewhere tomorrow and somebody's going to have to make the phone call that I can't show up, and they'll have to deal with that at the time. But it is interesting that all of this language, and I'm very big on thinking about the words we use and the power that we give some of these words, that maybe that's part of our challenge in the aging process is we're really using the wrong language to set people up for these failures with the expectations of we have to hit this benchmark at a certain time in our life and then we're accomplished. And that's maybe not fair. I love that. So, okay, there's 7 stages in the book that you talk about. We've kind of hit on, I think, 2, maybe 2.5 of them. What are some other stages that you love to discuss with people that are really important that we're not getting correct?
I think pre-transition's a really important one, Cindy, where it's often people might get to a different point in their life and it's not planned for or what have you, or it's imposed on them in some respects, whether it's a job situation or a family situation or financial or what have you. And we define the pre-transition stage as really one of opportunity where you can be contemplating and considering what your future might look like. And we touched on that before in terms of planning and setting goals and identifying what's your preferred way of living, etc. So that pre-transition stage can be a really exciting one, we feel, in the sense of exploring your ideas, exploring the things that you want to be doing and that are important to you. And that also includes things like the relationships that are important to you. As Stuart touched on before, where you're living, is it staying where you are? Is it considering a different location for various reasons? So it also is a stage where you can ensure control is part of your longevity. And one of the great fears for people about getting older is this perception or expectation that we will lose control. And the pre-transition stage is one where you can flip the script in terms of that sense of reduced control or less choices and broaden the thinking, but then bring it back to that personal level, as you rightly pointed out before, which is so important. So it's one where, as I said, we can really be aligning our priorities and passions and preferences and taking control of our increased longevity. So we feel that's quite an exciting stage, which is perhaps one that's often overlooked because we, as a society, we expect there's going to be change imposed upon us, whereas the pre-transition stage is the opportunity for us to really take control.
I love that. Where should we live, Marcus? There's all kinds of books, right, that tell us about the blue zones and areas we should avoid. And, living next door to the nuclear plant is probably not a fantastic idea. Where are optimal places for us to look to reside if this is the type of environment we're really excited about?
Cindy, we talk about 4 factors in the book: physical, psychological, social, and environmental. And I think those last 2 are really key in terms of where we consider where we live. So where's going to be conducive to our social connections, to fueling that sense of purpose, which is so important to our health and well-being. The environmental factors around that. So do we want to be by the water because we want to be fishing or water skiing or on the boat or whatever it might be? Do we want to be in an urban area because we want different amenities close by? Do we want to be near family or far away from family, depending on what the circumstance might be? So it's really recognizing the importance of the social and environmental factors. And there might be some realities for us too, in terms of we might have some health requirements. So we need to be close to services or facilities in that regard. Transport might be a consideration for us. So again, in the book, there's these tools which help us identify those elements that are really important to us and can help inform our plans and decisions around things like where we want to live. And coming back to the aging on pace concept, for a number of decades, since indeed the sort of 70s and 80s, there's been this concept called aging in place, which talks about where we live. And that's been important, and there's been some value to that. But the concept of aging on pace is the next evolution of that sort of thinking, where aging on pace is about how we live. And it's, we would argue, more important to understand how we want to live, and then things like where we live flow on from that. So again, coming back to the personal reflection, the personal priorities, and then we can shape decisions and plans from there.
It's interesting to me. My son, who just over the last year graduated in the firefighting academy and finished his EMT program, he was home a couple weeks ago and we were talking about some of his experiences with some of our older population that he's encountered on some of his clinical rotations. And he proceeded to say to me, "Mom," he goes, "I just want to tell you, I will never put you in one of those places. If you ever need my help, I will always take care of you." And, tear comes to my eye, and I replied with, "How come?" I was curious what the impetus for that statement was, besides the fact that I think my kid does actually love me. And, he shared with me a couple examples of how, when returning some of our older population to the homes, right, that they're living in, the nursing homes and some of the rehab facilities, he was disgusted by how poorly they were treated and ignored, even in the short period of time. So in the work that you both are doing for the education on this global space, how can we do that better, right? Because certainly there are families that feel incapable or don't have the time, or people that just don't have the family to take them in to care for our older population. And yet I think his limited experience is probably much broader, and he'll realize that as he dives further into this journey. And it really makes me sad to know that we've got a lot of people that are not being well taken care of, especially when they struggle to take care of themselves. So how do we do you have the answer to fix that, Marcus and Stuart, so that we can start to make those changes?
One of the things that we highly promote is living at home, and not as long as possible. Don't say as long as possible.
Okay.
Living at home, period. And study after study, whether it's AARP or others, has found that is where older adults want to live. And it is, if they need some assistance, they want those services to be brought to them or be able to access them from their home setting. And so there is a very large push, if you will, to find organizations that can provide services such as assistance with transportation, access to physician visits or hospitals, food and nutrition, transportation, and socialization while you're at home. There are a number of programs even working virtually so that if one can't get out of the house, the concept of social isolation, which we have all experienced as a result of COVID, is one that has come right into the fore. And now there are many who are working on, how to provide virtual programming so that social isolation isn't one of those barriers to staying at home. And so providing those comprehensive services in the home setting, if needed, is the solution to referrals into a facility-based care. Having said that, facilities are needed. They are needed. They are recognized by many as a place that assists people, particularly when you get into issues of physical rehabilitation or even dementia, or if somebody requires end-of-life care. But being cared for at home is the holy grail these days, and there are more and more of us who are providing those type of services. My organization that I actually work for when I'm not authoring a book is called Self-Help Community Services, and we do that for over 25,000 people in the New York metropolitan area with housing, home care services, social work services, virtual services, and that is the way that people will feel good regardless of their stage of life. And of course, then we are typically talking about later stages of life, something that we refer to as elder.
Yes. Yeah, it's interesting. I think of I've lost all four of my grandparents at this point at my stage of life. And I think back to actually my great grandmother, who we have a joke in my family that you just can't kill us. We just don't want to die. So she was almost 104 when she passed and lived by herself up until the last couple of weeks of her life. She used to go to the Jewish center and she used to say she used to teach the old people Yiddish. And I'm like, Grandma, you're the old people. Like, you're the old people. But it was fascinating how when she did enter the hospital, I went out to visit her. She was in Florida and she said, all I want to do is go back home. And she just hung on as long as she could in the hospital until I finally talked to her daughter, who was elder. And I said, let's get her home. And as soon as she came home, a few days later, she peacefully passed at almost 104. And it was actually, as beautiful as it can be in death, but she was in her space versus a foreign, cold, hospital that she was unfamiliar with. And we had the same experience with my grandmother on the other side, that everybody wanted to move her and she was living alone. And I said, just, it's her home. If she goes at any time because she's at home, this is where she wants to be. And why would we disrupt that after being in a space for over 50 years that she was comfortable in? So I think, to your point, we have to work a little harder to help accommodate that for the people we care about, rather than just thinking it's easier to get them somewhere else thinking that they're going to get good end of life care. Let's back up a little bit. So we talk a lot about an aging and we think of a number, to your point, and even though maybe that number becomes relevant, at what age should we, though, start to really dive into your work and the book so that we can be prepared to go through these phases much better instead of getting stuck when we're 70 going, ooh, we missed an opportunity? Where does that begin? I mean, do we teach our kids this?
Absolutely, Cindy. I think our mantra is it's never too early or too late to be planning. So taking the last part of that point, if we only have 2 weeks to live or 2 months to live, that's still your time. So let's plan and take control of that. The other side of that obviously is the earlier we plan, the more control we can have. And we talk about the stages in the book being really from 25 years of age to 100 plus years of age. Okay. And it's twofold as well. So for people who might be at the younger spectrum of the chronological age in that range, Obviously, you might be using the book to support your older family members, older loved ones that you want to be sharing that information and insights and resources with. But it's definitely never too early to plan. And obviously plans will be fluid. So our aging journey is absolutely fluid. And I think that's a big message from the book, is recognizing the fluidity of our aging journey. And that fluidity really starts in our younger adult life and obviously continues on throughout the journey and the adventure that we have through growing older. And we can develop plans and develop thinking at those younger ages, and then evolve and adapt those plans as we move through different stages, and our priorities might change, our preferences and relationships might change, and the things you want to do. So it should be something that's a living concept, a living process, and that we keep coming back to, and also sharing with people most important to us, people closest to it, whether it's our spouse or partner or close people that we want to be sharing our thinking with, and maybe getting some ideas from, or getting some feedback from, or also getting support from. So yeah, bottom line to your question, never too early, but also never too late.
And I would add that the book is called Your Aging Advantage, but what we have within the book is Your Aging Advantage Plan. And so there are several chapters that help you as Marcus says, at any age, not too early, not too late, to go through questions, big questions, and then broken down into pieces as to how you think about what your aging advantage plan should be. Again, the psychological factors, the social factors, the environmental factors. And once you come up with that, you can then revisit and say, where would I like to be? So first find out where you are based on the tools that we provide in the book, and then move to where would I like to be, whether it's an advanced stage, which may be the case, or going back to an earlier stage. So the book provides you with the tools to go through it at any stage.
That's awesome. And you answered the question I was going to ask you of, besides buying the book, what's the next step for all of us? And you just gave it to us, which is perfect. Great. The book is done. What's next for the two of you? What's the next big project? How are you going to move all of this education forward for us globally?
Well, obviously, Cindy, on the back of the book comes the TV series and the movie, which should be out by 2028, hopefully. But
Okay.
But no, it's really continuing to share the insights, to be honest, and what we've really been enjoying, Cindy, is the feedback from people who have read the book and really finding the concepts resonate with them. And that's people of different ages and at different stages. And so really excited to keep expanding that sharing of the information and other people's insights and knowledge that we continue to share. So our work continues, and we'll do that internationally, to be honest. Obviously, we've been really excited by the feedback in the US and continuing to share that, and we'll bring it to Australia and elsewhere as well over the time ahead.
Oh my gosh, I love that. I'll share with you, it's funny. So I'm 57 years old, and for the last 5 years, so I started at 52. When I stand on stage and I talk about wellness and things that incorporate aging, I always like to tell people that I look amazing for 72. And I tell the story that my grandmother used to tell everybody she was 29 until my mother became 29. Grandma had to become 39. And when I became 29, grandma had to become 49. And one day I said to my grandmother, and I had an amazing relationship with her, I said, you know what, Grandma? You really look like shit. Forgive my language. I go, you look like shit for 49. You have to stop lying about your age. And if you're going to lie about your age, at least tell people you're older than you are so that they're amazed and wondering what you do. So as much as I don't mind admitting that I'm 57, sometimes I like to tell people I'm about 20 years older because they go, oh my gosh, I don't. And I'm like, it's the water. I drink a lot of really good water. It's good for my skin, and I'm aging really well. And I have to tell you, I'm really excited about this. I love where I am at this stage in my life. I'm not upset that I'm 57. I don't actually even want to go back to my 20s, quite frankly. My 50s are much better than my 20s with what I've learned and what I know. And I'm really excited to just share this information because I agree. I think, the next 20, 30, 40, 50 years, whatever I'm gifted to be able to live through. And it is just that, it's a gift, need to be just as amazing as the years that came before it. And we can accomplish that. So, kudos to the two of you for dedicating your life's work to this and bringing it here to the Positively Altered podcast. And, soon we're going to make everybody stick around because we're going to tell them how to get the book. And I think too, Julie, who's off camera, who's my producer for this, we're going to make sure that we get some copies of the book in our arsenal because we love to give away some of Dr. Cindy's favorite books at some events. And we're going to add this to our collection to make sure we get it in people's hands. I think it's fabulous. Anyway, all right. I want to take a commercial break because we have to thank the people that keep us going here. But I would love for you to stick around. We're going to do some rapid or not so rapid fire questions, as Julie likes to correct me, just for some fun. Will you guys hang out for a little bit longer?
You bet.
Sure. I'd be happy to.
Great. All right. Marcus and Stuart, we will be right back with the Positively Altered podcast. This is your weekly dose of Dr. Cindy, the Positively Altered podcast. Stop, hit that follow button now and spread the love with Positively Altered. We are back, and thank you to our commercial sponsors and a big thank you to Marcus Riley and Stuart Kaplan, who have got me excited to hit 100. I mean, I just can't wait. The oldest person in my family made it to 106, which I think is amazing. And I'm determined to beat her by 6 more years. So I'm a little bit past midlife at 57, 112. Here I come. And I'm going to dive into the book because if there's a lot of good things I don't yet know, and I suspect there are, I think that's going to push me further. So let's go into just some fun questions and see where we go. You guys ready?
Cindy, before you go on, just quickly, you'll be pleased to read the definition of midlife stage in our book. The midlife stage is well beyond your current chronological age. So enjoy that.
Nice. I'm going to run with that. I love that. Right. And again, I should probably take that away anyway, because midlife tells me I'm half over and I'd rather look at what I've got in front of me rather than it being over. Right. So I corrected myself on that language. So yeah. And thank you for that gift, Marcus. I'm going to take that.
We're already making it happen. Excellent.
Right. See, and that's the beauty of this is I love the fact on this podcast that we share so much good information with our listeners to learn. But at the end of the day, sometimes I think I actually even learn a lot more than they do in the conversation. Right. So this was a huge win for me. So thank you. All right, you guys, what is one place on earth you have never been to you would love to see?
You limited it to Earth, and so I would love to be on the moon. I would love to be on the moon.
Listen, you can change. You can change the question. I don't care. You would really go, Stuart. You would go.
Having just seen our astronauts up there and the views back, which were just beyond magnificent, beyond what I've seen, through previous, people up there in space. I think it would be fantastic to be up there and experience. I'm a little nervous about making the trip.
Yes.
But I'd like to be there. So I can close my eyes and then be there the next moment. That would be the place I'd like to be.
Okay. We call that visualization, Stuart. You don't actually have to get in the rocket ship. Okay. You can do that. What about you, Marcus? Where would you go?
I'd have to say the Caribbean, or the Caribbean, as we would say. I have some great American friends who enjoy holidays there, and from Australia, it's a long way. We've never been, so that would be one place I would put on my list.
Okay, it's beautiful, and Australia's on my list. So
come on down, Cindy. Come on down.
I need a couple more years, but it's definitely. I'm saving my United miles so that I can fly first class without paying $25,000 to get to see you.
Smart. Yeah.
So when there's enough miles, then I'm going to make the trip. Absolutely. All right. What is your biggest guilty pleasure?
For me, it's chocolate donuts.
Okay.
And if I'm allowed to say, it's Entenmann's chocolate donuts for anybody who knows that brand. I can eat those at any time of the day or night, or in the middle of the night when I awaken. And everybody in my life knows it. And so I often, when people come to visit, receive boxes of that, and they don't stay forever. So the boxes is too many, or I have to eat them faster. But
Oh my
chocolate
God.
and the Mince donuts.
Stuart, you're in New York where there's got to be a million different homemade donut shops, and you'd still pick the boxes of Entenmann's?
It is
Wow.
the chocolate. I don't know what they do with that chocolate taste. There is something to it that is just beyond all of those homemade donuts. Yes.
Stuart, there's probably crack in the chocolate or something like that they don't tell you about that gets you coming back from that production. All right. Well, if anybody from Entenmann's is listening, I'm sure you would make an excellent
New sponsor.
spokesperson at this point if you need another gig, in your next few years. What about you, Marcus? Any guilty pleasures?
Seinfeld reruns. I can be, everyone's talking about a new show or let's watch this movie, and and actually on our cable here now, there's a Seinfeld channel, so it's just 24/7, and I've seen every episode 1,000 times. I know each line of every episode, but yeah, it's just too easy, too comfortable, easy way to kill half an hour, 45 minutes, and yeah.
Who's your favorite character on the Seinfeld show? Who do you love?
It's got to be the K-Man.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny, and I don't know that I've seen every single episode, and I certainly don't watch the reruns, but I think all of the supporting characters on that show is actually what made Jerry Seinfeld.
And so many of them then kicked on to prominent roles in other shows, right? It's great,
absolutely
great
brilliant
foundation for them. Yeah.
Yeah, it's great, which is a testament to why we should surround ourselves with amazing people, because it helps elevate us for sure. Absolutely. Okay. If you could switch lives with any cartoon character, who would you switch lives with?
Great question.
My favorite all time before, it's not a real person and there are cartoons of it, is Superman.
Okay.
From my earliest days, that is something that always amazed me. His abilities, but the heart that he had, always trying to do the right thing from a justice standpoint, and having these superpowers to be able to do it, always intrigued me. And in a way, I try to do that as a human being in real life in the field that I chose to help others. And so Superman is the guy.
So we got to get you a big cape with a giant A on it for aging.
There you go.
We'll put a note to see if we can find one of those for you, Stuart. And Marcus, what about you? What cartoon character would you love to be?
Well, it's got to be the Roadrunner. He never dies, so he just keeps going.
That anvil just keeps dropping on his head. He's not even concussed, which is unbelievable.
He just keeps on going.
I love that. All right. I'm assuming you both have cell phones. So if you could only keep 3 apps on your phone indefinitely, and that was it, what 3 apps would you pick?
Spotify, Google Maps, and the camera. Oh, the camera.
Stuart? I would go with Google Maps for sure. And the app that allows me to use my phone in place of my credit card.
Okay.
Because that one works for me forever. And then we have something that we have at work, that's a work app that a Teams type thing that keeps me connected all the time. So I'm very simple when it comes to apps.
No, that's good. That's good. All right. And if you could pick any day of the year to form your own holiday, what would we celebrate, and what day of the year would you pick?
29th of July, my birthday.
Is it really, Marcus?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. Big birthday guy, Cindy.
Okay. All right. So
Mine or others. Yeah.
do we plan for 2 months in advance, and do we make a big deal and it carries into the next week? Are you that guy?
Absolutely. I'll give you an example of how much that works. So years ago, I was at a close friend of mine from school's house, and in the bathroom, we had on the back of the door was a calendar, and it was about 3 months ahead of my birthday. So I got a pen and just wrote this countdown from 90 days and then 60 days and all the way through to my birthday. And from that year and every year since, he and his family ring me on my birthday every year and all sing happy birthday to me. So it pays to make people aware that your birthday is coming up.
I love that. In my world, so my history, grandparents are part Russian and part Polish. And we used to joke that when those of us that celebrated for more than one day, it was the Polish in us that did that. So there may be some Polish in your background, Marcus, if you dig deep.
I'll do some research, Cindy. Yeah.
It might be that, if you run the DNA, you might be like 1% Polish. So we'll gladly include you in the family for that, for the celebration of more than one day. And Stuart, what about you? What holiday and what day should we celebrate it?
I would go with August 21st. It is my wedding anniversary, and the happiest day of my life was the day that I married my wife, Rosemary. And
Excellent.
so we celebrate it always, and we usually do it with some style, not just let's go out to dinner, but usually with lots of friends. We actually even renewed our vows a few years ago, which was the second happiest day, and I would do that again as well. And I commend that to all, to consider renewing vows if you are in the marital state. It is something that you do. We did it at 25 years. And at that point, you have new people in your life, perhaps children, but certainly new friends. And you've lost a few as well. But the recognition of the people you love, and you get to choose who you want to be there in that second time around. The first time, sometimes there are people who you think have to be there, but this is a choosing it. And we even went as far as to have somebody, quote, remarry us, who I had actually married as an ordained. You can become ordained to marry people.
Right.
And I had done that. So I had done that for them 10 years earlier and asked them to do it for us. It was a spectacular day, but the original, which is the wedding date, wedding anniversary.
Great. So we'll make August 21st an anniversary of renewal and love. How does that sound? And July 29th, and maybe we can cheat and take a day before or a day after if we need to, right, Marcus?
But we'll make it a week or a month, Cindy. That's totally fine.
Okay. Listen, let's do it all year, Marcus. I mean, every day is a good day for
now we're talking. Now we're talking.
All right, I'm in. And lastly, both of you, what was your favorite thing about doing the podcast today?
The energy that you bring to the conversation, Cindy. Stuart and I obviously are big on positivity, about aging, about life, about connection, and you've just been the epitome of that. So it's been great energy and thoroughly enjoyable. Thank you.
And I would add your personal engagement with the topic of aging, the sharing of what you did relative to your family, whether it be your son, your grandmother, all of it. It personifies what we wanted to do with the book, was make it accessible, make it usable, have people be able to relate easily rather than use lots of research and technical jargon and things that we could do, but then nobody really understands it. So I think it's relatable, and that's exactly what you brought to the podcast. So thank you for that.
It's been my gift, absolutely, to have the two of you. How does everybody find the book? Give us the title again, where we buy it, where we grab it. How do we follow you, get in touch, and give us all the goods?
So the book can be found at youragingadvantage.com. and can be purchased in the Barnes & Noble, Amazon, and all of those. Happy to. I could be found at skaplan@selfhelp.net. Self-Help is the organization I work for, and would love to have people take a look at that as well.
And Marcus, how do we get a hold of you or follow you?
Yep, there's marcusriley.co, the website, and or look up Marcus Riley booming on social platforms and be delighted to connect.
I absolutely love this. You guys have been fabulous. I will tell you the favorite thing about doing the podcast for me today is taking a topic that a lot of people are uncomfortable with and don't know how to discuss and making it easily accessible. And that's really important, is we need to start overcoming our fears and our hesitancy to really take these topics head on and just do better and be better. And I absolutely love that. For anybody who's interested in what we are doing in our community, please check us out at drcindyspeaks.com or send us an email at hello@drcindyspeaks.com. Let us know what you think of the podcast or even some new ideas for a podcast. We love to hear from you. You can also join our Not So Daily newsletter through the website. And lastly, pick up my book, Positively Altered, Finding Happiness at the Bottom of a Chemo Bag. Gentlemen, Marcus and Stuart, you guys have been a joy. Stuart, I get out to New York. I'm not going to share donuts with you because I'm dairy and gluten and chocolate free. But I will bring you a box if I show up on your doorstep. And Marcus, one day I am going to be on your front porch in Australia asking what to visit and what to do. So this has been a gift. Please, let's stay in touch and let us know here at the podcast how we can continue to support your mission. We love absolutely what you're doing. And I hope that everybody listening today has been left positively altered.